Thank you all of you for joining us today on this webinar. In the run-up to the 10th anniversary of UWC Diligent in 2024, we are launching the 10th anniversary perspectives, which is a set of talks themed around the UWC mission to make education a force to unite people, nations, and cultures for peace and a sustainable future. The only UWC in the post-Soviet space and the region, UWC Diligent is one of the 18 United World Colleges, or UWCs. And I hope that we have our friends from other UWCs and beyond from other colleges joining us here today. I am Brio Delecourt from Belgium, and I am in my second and last year here at UWC Diligent. And as a member of the UWCD Sustainability Committee, I am delighted to be part of this inaugural event to start a Green Future and Me series. The series is the initiative of the UWCD Sustainability Committee and the Parent Council. I am especially excited that our first guest is Alexandra Kornilova, a member of our Parent Council. And most importantly, Alexandra is the mom of my fellow student and friend Niklas Wermuth from Germany. The format of the session is as follows. Alexandra will talk for about 15 minutes on net positive, on circularity, its application, and on young leadership. And we can then make comments and ask questions via the chat here or on Facebook, where we are live, and in the Q&A section box in Zoom. Alexandra is a founder and managing partner of The Good Climate. She holds a Master of Science in Environmental Change and Management from University of Oxford. Welcome, Alexandra, and it's over to you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so grateful to be with you today and to the technology that allows us such communication, which is actually carbon neutral because I don't have to be in UWC Diligent to talk to you. So we can bridge nationalities and countries through the technology and use it for the good cause. So I'm grateful to Jana, who started this initiative. And we have planned a series of talks, so I hope you will join 3 other talks that on the agenda with the amazing personalities, professionals, and visionaries. I will introduce myself. I'm Alexandra, I'm Russian. I'm an economist and environmentalist by education. I'm also the mom of Niklas. And Niklas and I actually did together my master's degree at Oxford, and at that time I was exposed to an amazing atmosphere and community of very smart kids and caring and knowledgeable professors and teachers. And I think at UWC you're experiencing it at a younger age, and that's an amazing fundament for you, for young leaders, to build on that and bring people together, because I believe what is happening in the world is at the moment there is a broken system that we built, and the system is in the process of breaking more. And the reason for that, I believe, is that in the system that we have, each one of us individually, this is just a reflection. The world that we have outside is the reflection of our inner being. And we call the talks Green Future and Me because everything starts with ourselves, with our own behavior, changing our own behavior, changing the attitude in ourselves, then in our families, then in bigger communities, in our schools, other institutions, our workplace, and so forth. So I run a consultancy with a business consultancy with environmental focus. Let me just share the screen. I prepared several slides for you. I will tell you maybe a little bit the background. When COVID started, and I lived in the West for many years. I have 3 kids, and Germany was very strict with practices. Schools were closed, the sport campuses were closed, and I've been thinking, what if I just dream and let go of everything and would think where would be a good place for me to be, given my experience and my knowledge. And I looked at the maps, the world maps. If you could see, for example, land degradation, air pollution, water pollution, growing population, it's not in the northern part of the earth, but on the southern part of the world. And at that time, I looked at United Arab Emirates and their vision to create sustainability practices at the higher governmental level. And I just came to the country and I was thinking, okay, this is a fantastic hub for me to reach so many countries that are struggling socioeconomically and environmentally. And if we would like to go to net zero, we can't fix the problem in the West, in the Western Europe, but we should fix it globally. And the countries and the regions to start with are in the global South. They are mostly affected by climate change. They often don't have infrastructure, and they're lacking knowledge and technology, and the transition has to happen there, and there's so many low-hanging fruits. So I started my company in Dubai, and I'm working on carbon positive facilities. I will tell you carbon positive because the world is speaking about net zero, and I'm telling carbon positive because it's just the system that we have created, and now we are trying to reduce carbon emissions, but it's not about changing the system, but creating the new system. So think about your college, for example, as a good example of that net positive, where you care for your fellow students, you care for your teachers, you care for the common development, educational development, and so forth. So what if we could build companies on a similar principle of a family, where we care and we not solving the problem, we are not creating the problem from the very beginning. And I'm also focusing on global educational initiatives. I'm working with younger kids, with students, and for example, one project that I would like also to have a delegation from UWC, UWCD, is the conference that we are organizing in Berlin. It will be held from the 2nd till 4th of June next year. And it's a practical learning for young students, because in Europe we have a big movement, Fridays for Future, where young people go on the streets and they protest against the system that has been created. But what we would like to do, we would like to equip the students with the tools, how they can change that system. So when you come, you will meet entrepreneurs, mentors, environmental startups, and they will inspire you to move on with your own life, with your community, and change the habits, and also will equip you with the knowledge and will create a network of young change makers. So I very much hope many of you will join us at this conference. I've been part of many conferences for adults, and I've been thinking, why don't we do something similar at a very professional level for young students? What I believe, because you're exposed to diversity of nationalities and you are able to bring about the dialogue and international cooperation that is based on respect and interest of everyone involved, that we hopefully will create the world of peace and sustainability. So on the UWCD campus, what I've been thinking, I've been talking to Bruik because there is a sustainability council being formed and it's very active. What can be done on the campus level? For example, if you're thinking of decarbonization, what is very important is to collect the data of your electricity consumption, make the energy audit of the buildings in the campus. Even though that buildings are very state of the art, there's still a big opportunity to reduce the impact, reduce the carbon emissions, and create a positive impact. So, for example, take the circularity. Circularity is other word for that is cradle to cradle. That means that everything that we take from the earth, we use, reuse, we extend the life cycle of that, and then we return to the earth in the same biodegradable format that we took from. So 60 years ago, for example, they have not, most of the waste have been organic, and there was not a problem of putting that waste back to the earth. Now we have a lot of packaging, plastic packaging and so forth, which is good and bad at the same time. It's good because it's actually extend the lifetime of a product. It's bad for those countries that don't have the policies of recycling and the practices of recycling. Everything ends up in either in the landfill, and then the land gets polluted, the groundwater gets polluted, or it ends up in the incinerational plants, which are often that it's toxic air and it's not good to live next to incineration plants. So we could think of the concept of circularity in your own campus, for example, that you could say, okay, this is something that we can do with our waste, and maybe that will drive the change on the level of the government and the level on the policy level, where you come with the initiatives, you could partner up with some companies, and that you will bring that agenda, or you, for example, create educational awareness of the best practices that exist, for example, in Europe. Because what we used to have actually in Soviet Union, we had the circularity concept for waste, because paper was collected, glass was collected, we didn't have plastic. And now, for example, in Europe, there are deposits on plastic waste, which is makes it, from the business perspective, it's a running business, because you pay extra for your plastic bottle and then you return. And most of the initiatives that are financially intensive, incentivize people are the best, because the behavioral change is very swift. So on net positive, what I would like to cover a little bit is that the company that touches the life of everyone, the life of customers, they looks at the whole value chain, that or the value, the product providers and so forth. It's not a singular company that is for profit, but it has a bigger vision of creating good. So that seems to me that UWC concept is that an amazing example of such net positive company, where when it was created during the Cold War to create peace and sustainability in the world and bring nations together. So the same way, for example, as United Arab Emirates government hosted Expo 2020, bringing together 192 nations, and the Expo was dedicated to sustainability. It helped countries to showcase their progress in terms of innovation, science, sustainability practices, and bring the dialogue that is so much needed in the world. So there are so many good examples. We just need to use them and have the right mindset and the great leadership to move forward with that. And that, for example, taking the ownership of all the social environmental impact that businesses created. So if you would have this mindset where we don't want to create a problem, but we have the businesses that don't create this problem, but they offer solutions and they bring much more benefits, not only financial benefits, but social and environmental benefits. And we partner, so these companies, we partner with competitors, because in the end, there is no it's a fair competition, like a fair play in football. We always improve. And then we partner with institutions, with governments to drive that transformative change. And this is something I help companies to do. help institutions to do. And I was inspired by many people I've met in my life, amazing visionaries, and that education basically gave that exposure. So I very much believe that you studying at UWC with the deep value of creating good will follow it up in your life, and choose the professions and choose the leadership roles in your communities, in your countries, to drive that transformative systemic change that is very much needed in the world.
Thank you, Alexandra. This was truly informative and inspiring. I knew the term net positive, but I did not really have a full understanding of its meaning.
By the way, there is a great book. It's called Net Positive. Maybe you can order it for your library. Maybe you have it in your library. It's written by Paul Polman. He is a former CEO of Unilever, and there is a belief that through business practices we can change so much, because business is very fast in making decisions, and businesses have to drive this change.
Yes, I will. I will ask the librarians to add it for sure. While other gatherers their thoughts, and I encourage all of the viewers today to ask questions in the Q&A group chat or in the Facebook chat. Let me ask you some questions, Alexandra. So at first, being a member of the sustainability committee here in Dilijan, I sometimes have the feeling that our improvements in the campus are only a small drop in the ocean, and that this can be discouraging for a lot of young people. So how can we have the biggest impact against climate change at our scale as 17, 18-year-old students? Or in other words, how can we have an impact on the system at our age?
Okay, I think it's small steps matter, and they matter a lot. And when you do it on a collective basis, that is a huge change already. So I think as because you are very young and you want to, it's impossible to create a change at the very fast pace, you know, but making small steps can lead to bigger projects, you know, and then that could create a ripple. So for example, when the revolution started in the UK, it created the ripple where economic prosperity of the neighboring country was improved. So the same way, when you start small steps as a young generation, because you don't have limits, and you dream and you believe that change is possible, where we at our old age sometimes become very skeptical. So your effort is incredibly important.
That is for sure something that we hope to emphasize in our communities, especially in local communities in Dilijan or in our student community here. I have another question. When you talked about net positivity in companies and how it benefits from social benefits and environmental benefits, I had the question in my head of how can we ensure that net positivity from companies and institutions is not the fruit of an outsourcing of their material use, or in other words, brainwashing to other countries, and does not really having a global restorative and positive impact. So in other words, what would help the world perform global reduction in emissions, and not only in most developed countries, as you touched on in the beginning?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and very difficult question, because I think it lies in the psychology of human being, of, you know, doing things for myself first, or for my country, not thinking about other countries or other nations. So I don't have an answer to that, but I believe that, you know, for example, having a student campus that has 80 different nationalities from all parts of the world, that will come back to their countries, and that bring that knowledge and vision for a better future. And maybe many of us who are living in the West could go to the other countries and facilitate the change there. So, but as I've been saying, it all starts with ourselves, you know, with that thinking, because first comes the idea, then comes the action, and then there is the ripples, hopefully.
Thank you for your answer. I also highlighted that you said creating companies in net positivity emissions is not negativity emissions is creating companies like families, like the college, like our campus. However, I have read many times and many studies that green capitalism and green growth in some sense is doomed to fail because green growth is based on, I mean, that's the argument, on green technology and assumptions and on the basis of capitalism. So my question is more, do you believe that this economic system, which still encourage growth, can allow our society to attenuate climate change enough in the short term that we have?
Well, I personally believe that we have the problem with the current system where, for example, the system does not account for externalities or for pollution. So as the company, for example, I'm not incentivized to, for example, think in that net zero, net positive. You know, for me, it's cheaper to pollute. And if the purpose of my company is to gain profits as much as possible, so I will gain it on the heads of other people. But if we have that conscious change or increase of our consciousness, where we say, okay, we're in the end all one planet and one big community of humans, then this change is possible. And but think, because sometimes we need just to think out of the box. Think about that. For many years, we buy energy from big companies. But what if there is at the moment decentralization of energy supply, where each, like if I have a house and I have solar panels on this house, and then I have electric vehicle that becomes my battery, where I could trade the energy. So I create the energy myself, I store it in my car, and then I can also resell this energy to the grid. So each one of us becomes that powerhouse. And so there is a democratization of the, and that will help, of course, the behavioral change, as long now with the increasing energy prices, with the war, with the energy crisis, that actually the huge issue can facilitate that transition to the green economy. But there's so many facets, and that it's such a global thinking. So now, for example, with the COP happening for the first time in Egypt, in this part of the world, people are rethinking. So there are many progress on the governmental level in terms of implementing the right policies, or for example, having the price of carbon in the system.
That's very interesting. Thank you, Alexandra. We have actually a question from another UWC. I don't know which one. And I encourage also all the others to create questions for Alexandra to answer. And so this question is from Sarah. How do you think we could collaborate as an international UWC movement to create more effective change? So to give you a bit of context, last year, all the sustainability representatives from each college created the international UWC movement to increase communication and kind of effect on administrations and stuff like this. So how do you think we could create more effective change as an international and more wide UWC movement?
Well, I think if you, first of all, have that dialogue between the campuses and learn from, for example, you run a sustainability committee, yes, and then you encourage other campuses to do similar things. So you learn from them what they do, like kind of learning from best practices. That would help you a lot. Plus, I think UWC Dilijan is the only one college that has a parent community, and parents are there to help, or some of them would like to contribute. So for example, maybe building that community, stronger community from graduates of UWC, because over 60 years you have a huge network of like-minded people, so that will help to unite and to contribute to a better world.
That's for sure. I hope will increase communication if Sarah hears me. Do we have any other question in the chat to the viewers? If you have any question for Alexandra? We have a question from Raghu. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it right. Her question is, their question, sorry, is what are the seasonal fruits and vegetables of Diligent to eat to reduce our impact on the environment?
That's a good question.
Actually,
Uh,
I think I think from where you are, I don't know if it's very answerable, but I guess we can look into it with the sustainability committee, and that's for sure something we can address here at the campus. I know that already Armenian food that is served in the campus is local, and the meat also. That's for sure something we have to look about. The food challenges and globalization is for sure a big impact in the climate crisis.
yes. No, but that's a great question, because this is how you think, you know, you would like to consume local food and seasonal fruits and vegetables. On the other hand, you could think there are countries that export bananas. There's nothing else that they can do. So we still need to consume that bananas. We just need to think how to make the transportation carbon neutral. You know, eventually it will be carbon neutral. But yes, of course, it's good to have the regional produce.
For sure. If there are no more questions from the audience, I might ask my last questions. So Alexandra, do you think that complete change in the business models is coming globally, or do you think it's more, I mean, do you think it's coming more from a structural change, or it is coming from individual companies like yours, like the Good Climate, that is going to change the most of our emissions?
I think it's different reasons for that, and many reasons for that. You know, some people have that consciousness, some are learning from the example. Or sometimes there is a pressure that is being created by the movements like Fridays for Future, or like if you, it could be that the kids, you know, coming back home and asking their parents, okay, why are you still in that old fashion? So there are many facets, and each one of us can drive that change in our own way, in our own capacity. And that's important.
That's for sure. Thank you very much to those who joined us today. And thank you very much, Alexandra Kornilova, to come for this talk, which further ignited my interest in this area and personally gave me lots to think about. We at the University Diligent will take your ideas on board and see how we all together, and each one of us, can initiate structural changes as well as small changes in our lives that can make a big difference if we all join in, as you said. And for the people that are watching us, please join us to the next talk on 23rd of November at the same time. Our guest will be Charlie Klesner, who will talk on humanity and impact investing, a very relevant, modern, and interesting topic in these times. And there will be further information available online. I want to thank you all for coming, and let green be always on our mind in everyday and special activities. Thank you, Alexandra, very much for coming.
Thank you very much, Brooke, for moderating that, and the audience for listening. And I very much encourage you to join the next talk, because Charlie is an amazing visionary and an amazing professional, and it's very rare to hear him speak. So he is there for us exclusively, and with the hope to inspire and to bring that impact movement further.
I cannot wait to hear from these talks too. Thank you very much, Alexandra.
Thank you.